The day they opened my skull was the day they closed the last door to who I once was. I whisper that truth now because it is the only thing left in my memory that still feels like mine. Before the bone saws, before the nails, before the red hunger gnawed a hole through the center of my thoughts, I remember a different man living inside this armor. A disciplined blade, a patient brother, a soldier who fought with precision rather than frenzy. That version of me is a ghost now, but the echo of him still walks the corridors of my mind when the nails fall silent long enough for regret to breathe. Back then, on Bod, we weren't monsters, not yet. We were aspirants trying to become something worthy of the Dex Legion's name. The training cages rattled with the rhythm of bodies striking iron and blades scraping against armored plate. The scent of red dust clung to our tongues, metallic and dry. The sky itself seemed forged from rusted steel, and every sunrise carried the sound of another cohort screaming through another drill. But beneath the brutality, there was brotherhood. Real brotherhood. We bled, but we bled together. And among all those faces, one shadow never left my side. Kalis. He was younger, smaller, not yet hardened into the shape the World Eaters demanded. His hair too long by regulation, his eyes too soft for a future drenched in blood, but he watched me like a starved soul watches a flame drawn, hopeful, believing I carried some kind of strength he could cling to. When he struggled in the pits, I showed him how to shift his stance. When the others mocked his hesitation, I stood between him and the jeers until they quieted. Even the drill sergeants noticed he fought better when I was nearby. We weren't bonded by blood, we were bonded by choice. That made it stronger. I still remember the sound of his voice on the night the order came down the barracks row, the air charged with a tension none of us could name yet. A low siren echoed across the training field, followed by a Vox announcement. Prepare for surgical designation selection. Apothecarian protocols engaged. The older legionaries fell silent. No one needed to explain what that meant. The butcher's nails, Angron's gift, Angron's curse. We watched them drag the first aspirant down the rusted walkway. His heels scraped metal, leaving streaks of red dust. He cursed and thrashed, screaming for mercy that would never come. When the doors shut behind him, the apothecarian lit with a white glow. A moment later, a howl. Not human. Not entirely alive either. Kalis trembled beside me. Brother, Delvarus, will they take me? I told him the lie I needed him to believe. Not if they see you're not ready. Not yet. But the truth clenched in my gut. The apothecaries didn't choose based on readiness. They chose based on quota. Flesh was flesh. A skull was a skull. And then, on the 5th selection, we heard it designation. Kalis. Report to the apothecarian. He froze. His eyes widened. His lips parted, but no sound came. I saw the boy in him collapse. I saw the man he wanted to become break before he ever stood fully formed. No, he whispered. Brother, I can't. I'm not. Delvarus, please don't let them take me. Every instinct I had tried to hold him steady. Every memory of drills, battles, quiet nights in the barracks, they all collided into a single choice. I stepped forward before the tech priests reached him. Take me instead. Their lenses turned toward me, cold and blinking. Your designation was not called. I am stronger, I said. He will not survive the procedure. I will. Kalis grabbed my forearm, shaking his head violently. Don't, please don't. But the apothecaries didn't care about pleading. They seized me with mechadendrites, locking cold restraints around my wrists. Kalis's scream echoed down the hall as they dragged me away. The last thing I saw before the surgical door sealed was his hand reaching for me, desperate, trembling, and the last thing I heard was his voice breaking on my name. Delvarus, don't leave me alone. They dragged me down the corridor like a prisoner being offered to some metal-toothed god beneath the decks. The deeper we went, the thicker the air became, heavy with machine oil, incense, sterilizing chemicals, and the faint copper tang of blood that no filtration system could fully hide. The apothecarian on Bot was not a sanctuary of healing. It was a place where sons of Angron were remade, reshaped, and sacrificed in the name of becoming worthy. Even before the nails, we all knew the truth. No one walked into that chamber unchanged. Most walked out screaming. Some didn't walk out at all. The mechadendrites tightened around my wrists, pulling me past rows of surgical slabs stained with brown rusted outlines. The floor was littered with metal shavings, bone, fragments swept imperfectly into drains, and half-cleaned instruments steaming in purifying solution. I forced myself to breathe slowly, controlled one of the last fragments of discipline I would ever possess. If I let fear take root, Kalis would feel it when he saw me again. I could not fail him at the threshold of the sacrifice I had chosen. A pair of cybernetica thralls locked me against the primary slab. The cold metal bit into my back, clamps snapping shut across my forearms, hips, ankles, throat. One apothecary stepped forward, his servo skull hovering beside his shoulder, red lenses whirring as they scanned my skull structure. His voice was void of emotion when he finally spoke. "Your loyalty is noted. Your fear is irrelevant. You will serve the Primarch's design." Behind him, I glimpsed the surgical arms unfolding saw blades, cranial injectors, neural spiders dripping with glowing chemicals. The sight hollowed something in my chest, not from terror, from the realization that I would never again stand in a training cage with my mind fully my own. The apothecary adjusted a restraint near my temple. "Remain conscious," he said. "We require neural response to calibrate the nails." I managed a faint smile. Do I have a choice? No. A spark jumped from the cranial cutter as it descended toward my skull. I could feel the vibration before the blade even touched bone. The world narrowed to sound a high, keening whir that built into a scream of metal teeth biting into my head. Heat bloomed across my scalp as blood ran hot down my temples. I clenched my jaw, refused to cry out. That tiny act of defiance was all I had left. Then the saw breached the bone. White agony flared pure, searing, blinding. The clamps tightened as my body arched involuntarily. I felt the apothecary peel back a flap of my own skull, as casually as one might lift the lid of a container. Cold air washed across exposed brain matter, followed by the shadow of the nails descending into me like executioners, lowering their blades. The first spike pierced the brainstem. It was not pain, not at first. It was intrusion like a foreign thought, forcing its way inside, rearranging my memories, judging them. Then came the true agony, a molten pressure ripping through the pathways of my mind, burning away softness, patience, empathy. I felt myself fracturing, splitting between the man I had been and the one the nails demanded. Somewhere beyond the pain, I heard voices shouting, a distant alarm, the sound of another aspirant screaming in another chamber. But they all blurred beneath the pounding rhythm inside my skull, the nails pulsing once, twice, syncing with my heartbeat. The apothecary leaned over me. Calibration begun. Do not resist. I tried. Emperor, forgive me. I tried. But the nails bit deeper. They tasted my fear, my discipline, my love for Kalis, and they tore it apart, strand by strand. The last clear thought I remember before the red haze swallowed everything was Kalis's face, eyes wide, hand reaching, begging me not to leave him. Then the nails screamed, and everything else went silent. When the red haze finally thinned just enough for awareness to seep back in, I did not know where I was, nor how long I had been drifting in and out of consciousness. The apothecarian lights above me flickered in long, stuttering pulses, each flash carving the world into sharp fragments. Between those fragments, I heard the nails humming inside my skull, faint at first, like distant thunder rolling across a dead plain, then louder, then impossibly loud. Every pulse felt like a fist striking the back of my eyes. I tried to breathe. The nails punished the attempt with a burst of white agony. They wanted something else, something harsher, something that required my blood running hotter than discipline allowed. I didn't understand it yet, but I could feel their hunger already coiling in my thoughts, tasting each weak emotion like a predator sniffing prey. I forced myself upright, trembling against the restraints that had been released without my notice. My fingers shook as I unlatched the final cranial strap. Dry blood flaked down my neck. The stitching across my skull pulsed faintly, shadows quivering beneath the skin where metal writhed against flesh. I felt sick, nauseous with vertigo, but not from the surgery. From the wrongness of the silence around me. No Medicae tending wounds, no cyber thralls moving from slab to slab, no apothecaries overseeing the aftermath. Just the soft hum of dormant machinery and the faint buzzing of the nails tuning themselves inside my skull. It was not true silence. It was the calm before a storm I had already stepped into. A figure approached slowly from the adjacent chamber, broad-shouldered, armored chest partially sealed, surgical scars gleaming wet on freshly shaven scalp. Lycos, one of the other aspirants. We had sparred together, shared barracks, fought side by side in training pits, where we learned to bury fear under camaraderie. He looked at me now like he didn't know my name. When he opened his mouth, his voice shook. "Del? Is that you?" I tried to answer, but the nails flared sharp, sudden, a punishing spike that lanced down my spine. My words caught behind clenched teeth. I swallowed them instead. The nails pulsed again, dissatisfied. Lycos flinched. He stepped back as though I'd snarled at him. "They said you volunteered. They said you traded places with Kaelus." His voice trembled around the boy's name. "He hasn't stopped crying since they dragged you in here." The words should have warmed something in my chest. Instead, the nails hissed, drowning the sentiment in static. I tried to steady myself, one palm pressing against the slab for balance. The world swayed, then sharpened too fast. Every sound cut into my ears with razor clarity. Lycos's breath, the hum of stimulants in the Medicae, pumps, even the soft drip of coolant from a damaged lumen. My heartbeat thundered. The nails answered it with their own pounding rhythm. A shadow moved behind Lycos, Kaelus. He approached with timid steps, eyes rimmed with red, cheeks still streaked with tears he hadn't wiped away. When he saw me sitting upright, something inside him broke open again. Relief and terror fused into one expression. "Brother," his voice cracked. "You came back." I tried to smile gods. I truly tried, but the nails clenched around the attempt, twisting the gesture into something sharp and wrong. Kaelus stopped mid-step, chest hitching. "Delvarus, why are you looking at me like that?" I wasn't. Not intentionally. The nails were. They tasted his fear like it was nourishment. They wanted more. They wanted me to take it from him. I staggered backward, hitting the surgical slab hard enough to rattle the metal frame. My breath tore out of me. The nails screamed in protest. I had to fight my own skull to keep from stepping toward him. "Stay back." I forced the words through gritted teeth. Kaelus froze. Not out of obedience. Out of heartbreak. Lycos reached for him, pulling him away. "He's not ready. He's not steady. Let him breathe." Breathe. I wished I could. The nails pulsed again, impatient, hungry, whispering that Kaelus's fear was the quickest way to silence, and that silence was the only relief I would ever feel again. I curled my fists until the knuckles cracked. I would not take a step toward the boy I sacrificed everything to protect. I would not. But even as I swore it, I knew the truth, settling into my bones like a cold weight. This was only the beginning of the war inside my skull, and the nails always win. The apothecarian doors slid open with a slow, grinding shudder, and the cold air that spilled in felt different now, denser, as if reality itself thickened around me. The nails were awake, fully. Their presence crawled behind my thoughts like serrated claws dragging across the inside of my skull. I hadn't yet taken a step, but already I understood the truth no instructor had ever spoken aloud. The surgery wasn't the transformation. The waking was. I pushed off the slab, boots scraping the floor as I steadied myself. Every movement felt wrong, a fraction too sharp, too fast, as though the nails tried to guide my muscles before my own mind could react. My skull throbbed with each heartbeat, the rhythm syncing with a low hum that vibrated along my spine. I inhaled and tasted iron, metal, rage. It coated my tongue like ash. A cyber thrall approached on limb-like stilts, carrying a bloodied instrument tray. Its single optic flickered as it scanned me. Stability, uncertain. It rasped in Binharic tones. Recommend. Restraint. Restraint. A concept already slipping away. Footsteps approached from the hallway, heavy, armored. A full legionary stepped into the chamber, his white and blue plate scraped with drill scars, the crest on his helm marked with the sigils of a training overseer. His gaze locked onto me, analyzing, studying the new creature the nails had spat back into the world. "You stand," he said flatly. "Good. Some don't." His voice echoed strangely in my skull, split between two tones, the real sound and the nails' distorted echo of it. The nails twisted the edges, turning his neutral words into a challenge, a provocation, something I should attack. My fingers twitched, my jaw clenched. The nails rewarded the reaction with a faint pulse of pleasure, like a pat on the head, like approval. The overseer noticed my tension but didn't flinch. Walk. One word. Simple. Commanding. But the nails interpreted it differently, as pressure, as force, as a demand I could only obey if I fed them. My first step forward felt like my leg didn't belong to me. A stutter in the movement followed a moment where my own muscles resisted my mind. The nails punished the hesitation with a spike of pain so sharp I nearly fell. The overseer caught my arm. "Fight the disorientation. The implants must learn you, and you them." "They feel alive," I muttered. "They are." He led me into the outer corridor, lit by flickering blue lumen strips. The shadows trembled. My breathing grew ragged as the nails pulsed in delight at every flinch, every heartbeat, every tremor of anger or confusion. It was like carrying another presence, one that pushed, demanded, gnawed. My vision doubled for a moment, then sharpened, too sharply. I could see dust suspended in the corridor's air currents, each particle drifting like a threat. I could hear the heartbeats of men several rooms away, rapid, panicked, fearful. The nails flared eagerly at those sounds. The overseer continued speaking. "You must anchor yourself. Rage without anchor is madness. Madness weakens the legion." His words sounded like a distant memory. Now, anchors were slipping. Discipline was drowning. I felt the nails rearranging parts of my mind, rewriting impulses, burning old reflexes to ash. A scream erupted from behind a sealed door to my left. A fresh aspirant, another victim of the surgery. The nails surged toward the sound like a beast straining at a leash. My vision reddened. My fingers curled into fists without command. The overseer stepped in front of me, blocking the door. "Do not answer that scream." I wasn't answering it. The nails were. I forced out a breath, shaking, sweating beneath my armor vest. I felt like I was holding back a tide of molten metal with bare hands. The overseer finally nodded, judging my resistance. "You still fight. Good. Some embrace the nails too quickly. That path ends in death." I didn't answer. Couldn't. The nails had begun whispering, not in words, but in urges, in pressure, in an aching hunger that saw every sound, every motion, every heartbeat as something to break. When the corridor turned, I caught a glimpse of a reflective surface, a polished steel plate on the wall. I staggered toward it. What looked back at me wasn't Delvarus. My pupils were narrowed to predatory slits. My jaw quivered. Veins around my temples pulsed visibly beneath my skin. The surgical scars glowed faintly with residual stimulant heat. And the worst part, behind my eyes, I saw a shadow, a shape, the outline of the man I used to be, standing behind the glass, fading with every throb of the nails. The overseer's voice cut through my dissent. "This is the first hour. You must decide, Delvarus. Will you command the nails, or will they command you?" I did not answer, because deep down, in the hollow they were carving open inside my skull, I already knew the truth. The nails never share command. The overseer led me deeper into the training decks, past bulkheads painted with dried blood and old legion markings half scrubbed away. The nails throbbed, behind my eyes in slow, rhythmic pulses, each one testing the edges of my restraint like a finger tracing the rim of a cracked cup. With every step, it felt as though the floor shifted not physically, but perceptually, as if the world itself tilted to match the nails' demands. What once seemed familiar now felt sharpened, hostile, shaped by a hunger that had settled inside my skull like a coiled animal waiting for its moment to bite. We stopped in a narrow hall where lumen strips flickered unevenly. The overseer keyed a panel, and a heavy door hissed open on the left. Inside, a single lumen swayed from a frayed cable, illuminating a bare chamber lined with iron. The air was thick with the smell of old sweat and sterilized blood, two scents always at war in World Eater spaces. Chains hung from the ceiling. Training markings were scored into the floor, etched by countless boot heels, blades, and bodies. "Step in," the overseer ordered. The nails wanted me to obey with speed. My body surged forward before my mind caught up, and I stumbled, catching myself on the doorframe. The overseer observed this with the cold judgment of a butcher inspecting flawed meat. "This chamber is for early calibration. Close the door." I reached for the control rune. My hand trembled violently. The nails hissed, punishing the hesitation. I slammed the door harder than intended, metal ringing through the chamber like a struck gong. The overseer remained outside, visible only through a narrow vision slit. "You'll remain in there until you learn the first rule," he said. My breathing quickened. "What rule?" "That you are not dying," he replied. "The nails will make you believe otherwise. They will twist every second of restraint into agony, but you must not surrender to the first impulse they feed you." I pressed a palm to my temple. The nails pulsed at the touch, as if offended. "It feels like they're hollowing me out." "They are," the overseer said simply, "but only what the Primarch considers unnecessary." A cold shiver slid down my spine. What did Angron consider unnecessary? Compassion? Restraint? Rational thought? I swallowed hard, feeling the nails tighten. The overseer activated something on the wall panel. The lumen above me dimmed to a sickly red glow. Then the sound began. A low hum at first, barely audible, then rising layered, discordant, a vibration that slithered under my skin and coiled around my skull. My heartbeat synced to it unwillingly. The nails surged in response, flooding my veins with a pulse of raw static. My knees buckled. The overseer's voice filtered through the slit. "This frequency agitates the nails. It forces them to seek release." "Release from what?" I hissed. "From the agony of being inside a mind that still resists them." The chamber seemed to tilt. Shadows lengthened. Every breath felt like inhaling molten sand. The nails demanded. Movement, violence, anything to drown the sound. My muscles strained. My fingers twitched. I could feel myself edging toward the line where instinct replaced thought. I bit down on the inside of my cheek until blood filled my mouth. The nails pulsed at the taste, delighted. The overseer continued. "Your task is simple. Stand there. Endure. Do nothing." "Nothing?" I growled. My voice cracked on the word. The nails recoiled violently from the command, lashing against my skull. "Nothing," he repeated. Minutes crawled past as if time itself had thickened. I dug my heels into the floor, forcing my legs to hold. My vision blurred. My scalp throbbed around the surgical sutures. The nails flared again, pounding like a war drum, screaming at me to strike, break, scream, kill. I clenched my fists, nails digging into flesh. "Make it stop." "No," the overseer said. "You must hold through the storm." The buzzing rose to a shriek. My jaw locked. Sweat drenched my collar. My muscles spasmed. The nails punished me for trying to think, punished me for trying not to move, punished me for remembering anything that tasted like calm. I sank to one knee. The overseer's voice hardened. "Stand." I forced myself upright through a wall of pain so dense it felt like wading through blood. Every second became a battle fought entirely inside my skull. Then a pulse. A piercing spike. A moment of clarity. The nails quieted. For a breath. Not mercy. Acknowledgement. The overseer opened the door. "You lasted longer than most," he said. "But the nails are only beginning to carve you." I didn't answer. I couldn't. Somewhere deep behind my thoughts, a new presence stirred, not mine, not human, and hungry. The overseer led me out of the calibration chamber, but the nails stayed behind in my skull, replaying every flicker of agony with the precision of a torturer revisiting his favorite cuts. Each step felt heavier, as if the gravity on Bod had deepened only for me. The hallway stretched long and dim, lit by guttering lumen strips that buzzed softly, yet even that faint sound scraped like jagged metal along the back of my brain. The nails pulsed in response to every noise, every breath, every heartbeat that wasn't my own. The overseer studied my gait with clinical detachment. "Your rage threshold is rising. Good, but you still hesitate. Is that a problem?" I muttered, though the nails hissed the moment the question formed. "Yes," he said, slowing his stride. "Hesitation is pain. The nails punish indecision. They favor momentum. They favor madness," I said under my breath. He stopped, turned. His visor reflected my distorted face back at me. "Madness is a mortal word. You are Astartes. You do not go mad. You go forward. Forward. Into what? Into who?" I didn't have the breath to ask. The nails pressed harder, a rhythmic pounding that made the hallway tilt again. The overseer resumed, walking, and I followed, jaw clenched tight enough to crack teeth. We stopped before a wide blast door that groaned as it opened. Inside waited a large training arena, circular, ringed with iron cages, the floor etched with the scoring of thousands of battles. 10 legionaries stood within, each bearing fresh scars along their shaven scalps, each marked by the gleam of sutures where the nails had been implanted. Their eyes held the same twitching, restless hunger I had seen in my reflection. At the center of the arena stood Kaelus. My breath stopped. He was unarmored, bare-chested, shaking beneath the harsh lumen glow. His eyes darted from face to face like a cornered animal. The nails reacted instantly. His fear hit me like a stimulant, sharp and electric. I gripped the railing to steady myself, the metal bending slightly beneath my gauntlets. The overseer addressed the assembled group. "Calibration. Phase 2. The nails must learn to direct you through live stimulus." I swallowed a rising wave of dread. "What stimulus?" He didn't answer. Instead, he nodded toward Kaelus. "No," I whispered. The nails surged at the word pain, spiking behind my eyes, punishing the emotion it carried. The overseer continued, "This aspirant has not yet undergone implantation. His presence will test your impulses. You must fight the drive to silence him." Kaelus's eyes locked onto mine. "Delvarus, please don't leave me here," the nails screamed. The overseer beckoned me down into the arena. "Enter." My legs moved before my thoughts caught up. The nails pushed, eager, hungry, drowning out everything except the pounding rhythm inside my skull. I stepped into the circle. The blast door sealed behind me, plunging the chamber into claustrophobic stillness, punctuated only by Kaelus's shaking breath. The 10 newly implanted legionaries circled us like predators, not speaking, not blinking. Their nails vibrated in the air like a barely restrained storm. Kaelus stepped back, hitting the iron cage behind him. "Brother," he whispered, voice cracking, "you won't hurt me. I know you won't." But the nails wanted to. Oh, how they wanted to. Pressure built behind my temples, sharp, rising, impossible to ignore. My hand twitched toward my belt, my vision reddened at the edges, my breath grew shallow. The overseer's voice boomed from above. "Hold the line, Delvarus. Control them, or they will control you." Control them. I tried. I truly tried. But the nails screamed again, an electric lash across the mind, forcing me forward. Kaelus flinched. Tears streamed down his face. He raised his hands uselessly, trembling too hard to form words. In that moment, the nails didn't see Kaelus. They saw prey. I roared and threw myself sideways, slamming my shoulder into the cage wall just to redirect my own body away from him. Pain tore through me. The nails punished the self-inflicted strike with another spike. I dropped to one knee, fighting for breath. The overseer watched without pity. "Good. Again. Resist again." The nails surged harder. My vision swam. My limbs trembled. The urge to silence Kaelus's cries became a roaring tide. He reached toward me, voice breaking. "Delvarus, please, brother, fight them." The nails snapped. I lunged forward before I realized it, catching myself inches from him, fingers scraping the floor, body trembling violently with restrained slaughter. He screamed. The nails roared in delight. It took every shred of the old Delvarus, not the nails, not the new beast inside my skull, just to hold myself there without letting the red tide consume him. But as I knelt in front of Kalis, shaking uncontrollably, one truth carved itself into the raw edges of my mind. This was only the second test. The nails were far from finished with me. When they finally released us from the arena, I could barely stand. The nails had raked their claws through every corner of my mind, leaving my thoughts raw and trembling like open wounds exposed to cold air. My scalp throbbed beneath the sutures, each heartbeat a hammer blow echoing inside the metal cage of my skull. Kalis was dragged out separately, still shaking, still crying, his hands smeared with dust where he had clawed at the floor trying to reach me. I wanted to go to him, wanted to tell him I was still here, still fighting, but the nails hissed at the thought, curling around my guilt like a vice. I staggered into the barracks, trying to gather what remained of myself. The space felt different now, sharper, crowded with the metallic scent of sweat and fear. Shadows trembled beneath the flickering lumens, and every movement, every scrape of armor, every exhale from the men around me stabbed into my skull like needles dipped in fire. The nails amplified it all. They fed on the tension like vultures circling a corpse. Across the room, I saw Lycos sitting on his bunk, helmet in his lap, eyes distant. He looked up when he heard my boots. For a moment, I thought I saw a flicker of the old recognition, brotherhood, concern, something human, but it evaporated as quickly as it formed. Instead, he nodded once, slow and cautious, as if he were acknowledging a predator rather than a friend. "You survived," he said. His voice filtered oddly through the nails split between truth and challenge. The implants twisted the tone, made it sound like mockery. My fists clenched at my sides. The nails purred at the tension, rewarding the rising heat behind my ribs. I forced my jaw to relax. "I'm still me." Lycos stared for a long moment. "Are you?" I didn't have an answer. Movement caught my eye. Kalis had been brought into the far corner of the barracks by an apothecary serf. The boy's shoulders shuddered with each breath. His eyes darted around the room, searching for something familiar, something safe. When he finally found me, he froze as if struck. His lips parted in a silent plea, but he did not move toward me. He feared me. The nails responded to his fear instantly. The implants pulsed, hungry. I gritted my teeth so hard, pain shot into my jaw. The overseer entered then, boots echoing on the metal floor. The entire barracks straightened. His gaze swept over us, lingering on the newest scars, the freshest trembling hands. He stopped when he reached me. "You lasted longer than expected." The nails twisted the compliment into provocation. My fingers twitched. Heat climbed my spine. The overseer continued, "Now comes the third stage of integration. Your minds must accept the nails fully. Resistance will only prolong the suffering." Kalis lowered his head, whispering something to himself, words too soft to make out. I heard them anyway. The nails sharpened every sound, dragging them into clarity. "Please, not him, not again." A blade of guilt pierced through the haze. The nails recoiled, displeased. Pain lanced behind my eyes, punishing the emotion like a flaw to be cut away. I stumbled backward into my bunk, breath ragged. Lycos watched me with silent dread. The overseer ignored my struggle. "Tomorrow," he said, "you will enter the cages again. This time, the nails will guide your movements. You will learn their language, their hunger, their demands." The nails pulsed, anticipating the violence. Kalis let out a soft whimper. My hands trembled uncontrollably. Every part of me felt stretched thin between two worlds, the man I had been, and the beast the nails were forging from the scraps. The overseer turned to leave, pausing only to deliver his final instruction. "Sleep if you can. It is the last night any of you will know yourselves." The barracks door sealed behind him. Around me, the other aspirants slid into uneasy rest, but I remained sitting on the edge of my bunk, breath shallow, heart pounding, the nails whispering softly in the dark, waiting, testing, tasting. And as Kalis curled into his corner and cried quietly into his hands, I realized a truth that hollowed out my chest. The nails weren't just consuming me, they were devouring everything I loved. Dawn on Bot wasn't light, it was a vibration. A deep, metallic groan rolling through the steel bones of the training complex as the furnaces woke and the decks trembled with machinery grinding to life. The barracks lumens flickered awake in stuttering bursts, painting the room in sickly white. I hadn't slept. None of us truly had. The nails didn't allow sleep, they allowed collapse, then jolted us awake with a spike the moment our minds drifted somewhere gentle. I sat on the edge of the bunk, armor half sealed, my scalp still throbbing with the slow pulse of the implants burrowing deeper into my neural pathways. My hands shook with every breath. The nails punished the trembling with a sharp sting, as if warning me that weakness was a language they intended to cut out of me entirely. Across the room, Kalis sat with his arms wrapped tightly around his knees, back pressed to the wall. His eyes were swollen from the night's tears, but he forced them open each time they tried to close, terrified of the dreams waiting behind them. The nails twisted the sight into something predatory. His fear didn't just echo in my skull, it summoned a response, an instinctive lurch of hunger that made my teeth grind. I dug my nails into my palms until blood welled. The nails hissed, punishing the pain but relenting from the urge. Barely. Lycos approached me cautiously, as though stepping near a wounded animal with fangs still intact. He put a hand on my shoulder but did not grip. It was a ghost of a touch, respectful and distant. "You'll be in the cages again today," he said. "All of us will. They say the nails settle after the third trial." Settle. Strange word for torment, learning its favorite paths through the brain. "They're killing something in me," I muttered. Lycos didn't argue. "Maybe something we don't get to keep." The barracks doors slammed open. This time, it wasn't the overseer, it was a full centurion. His armor bore the white and blue of the Tel's Legion, though the colors were nearly lost beneath a history of gouges and dried blood. The nails throbbed at the sight of him, recognizing authority, or challenge, or something older. He scanned the room. "On your feet. All of you." We obeyed. Even Kalis staggered up, his fear radiating like heat. The centurion's gaze swept the line. Phase 3 will determine whether you carry the nails, or whether the nails carry your corpse. A few aspirants swallowed hard. The centurion smiled without warmth. "Good. Fear sharpens the mind. Emotion feeds the nails. You'll need both." He gestured toward the corridor. "Move." We marched in a tight line through the steel halls, our footsteps echoing in disjointed rhythm, thanks to the nails dictating microbursts of tension in our muscles. I could feel every heartbeat around me, each one a drumbeat calling the nails closer to frenzy. When we reached the cage arena, the blast doors opened to reveal an expanse larger than before. More soldiers, more cages, more blood staining the floor in dried black patches. The nails responded instantly, roaring behind my eyes as though recognizing a battlefield. The centurion addressed us from an elevated platform. "Today, you do not fight merely each other. You fight yourselves. You will enter the cages in pairs. If one of you loses control, the overseers will intervene. If both of you lose control," he shrugged, "only one emerges." Kalis's breath hitched. The nails loved that sound. My pulse spiked. "He shouldn't be here," I said before I could stop myself. The centurion tilted his head. "Compassion, Delvarus. You still cling to it." The nails hissed, punishing the impulse. Kalis's eyes flicked to me hope, fragile as glass. A cruel smile spread across the centurion's face. "Pairings will be random. Let the nails decide who lives." But the nails weren't listening to him. They were listening to Kalis's fear, and to the rising hunger inside my chest. Lycos stepped forward suddenly. "Pair me with Delvarus." The centurion arched a brow. "Bravery or stupidity?" "Both," Lycos said. Kalis exhaled in relief. I clenched my jaw, gratitude warring with the nail's irritation. The centurion considered it for a moment, then nodded. "Very well, Delvarus and Lycos. Step into the cage. The moment I crossed the threshold, the nails surged louder than before, sharper, like claws scraping bone. The cage door slammed shut behind us. Lycos faced me, breathing evenly, eyes steady. "Listen to me," he whispered. "We're going to get through this. Together." The nails screamed at the word together. They wanted blood. They wanted betrayal. They wanted me to break him. I staggered, clutching my skull. Lycos took one step closer, and the nails drove a spike of agony so violent through my vision that the world blurred into red shadows. Lycos recoiled. Delvarus held the line, but I couldn't hear him anymore. Only the nails, only the hunger, only the rage building like a storm inside a cage, far too small to contain it. The moment the cage door locked, the nails struck like lightning, a crackling surge of pressure that tore through the back of my skull and dropped me to one knee. Lycos reached toward me too quickly, too close, and the nails interpreted the movement as a threat. Rage bloomed, hot, immediate, instinctive. My vision snapped into a narrow tunnel with him at the center. Delvarus' focus on my voice. "Don't let them." His words drowned under the nails' roar. It wasn't sound, it was command. A raw directive pulsing through my veins, telling me to lunge, to tear, to silence the one who moved toward me. My hands curled into claws before I realized it. Lycos froze. He knew that stance. He'd seen dozens of aspirants fall into it. He lifted his palms slowly, showing he held no weapon. "Brother, don't let them choose for you." The nails punished the word brother with a bolt of searing pain. My jaw clenched so hard I tasted blood. Every instinct split in two, one part screaming at me to attack, the other begging me to hold the ever-thinning line of who I used to be. But the nails don't whisper, they devour. Lycos stepped back, boots scraping the grated floor. Not in fear, he wasn't afraid of dying. He was afraid of what was happening to me. "Delvarus, look at me. Not at the anger. Look at me." I tried. "Emperor, help me." I tried. But his heartbeat pulsed too loudly. His breath sounded like a challenge. The nails sharpened every sound, every flicker of motion. They wanted blood. They wanted proof I could be forged into a true world eater. Lycos braced himself. "Then hit me if you must. Just don't lose yourself." The nails loved the invitation. I charged. He dodged, barely, my fist smashing into the cage wall hard enough to warp the bars. The impact should have broken my hand, but the nails masked pain, redirecting it into sharper hunger. Lycos ducked low, sweeping my legs. I hit the ground and rolled, already surging back to my feet, momentum unstoppable. He deflected the next blow with his forearm, grunting as bone met ceramite. "Delvarus, listen." I didn't hear him. I heard only the nails. "Break him. Silence him. Feed us." My strike caught Lycos across the jaw, snapping his head sideways. Blood sprayed the floor. He stumbled but didn't fall, planting his stance with soldier's discipline. His eyes watered from the impact, but they held no hatred, only pleading, only trust. "Brother," he rasped. "Fight with me, not against me." The nails lashed me for hesitating. I roared and lunged again, fingers hooking for his throat. Lycos caught my wrist, muscles straining, teeth bared in effort. For a moment we stood locked in pure tension, breath mingling, his eyes searching mine for any shard of the man he knew. "Delvarus, I know you're in there. Don't let them take you." The nails flooded my skull with a howl of rage, drowning out his voice completely. The sound tore through my mind like talons ripping open old wounds. Something inside me cracked, something human, something soft, and the beast surged forward to fill the gap. I slammed my forehead into his. The crack echoed across the arena. Lycos fell to one knee, dazed. The nails rewarded me with a burst of euphoric silence, a maddening relief. I raised my fist for the finishing blow, for the kill, for the quiet. "Delvarus." The shout didn't come from Lycos. It came from outside the cage. Kalis, pressed against the bars, eyes wide, tears streaming. His voice cracked raw as he screamed my name again. "Delvarus, please stop. That's not you." The nails recoiled, just for a moment, just long enough for breath to return to my lungs, long enough for clarity thin as a blade's edge to cut through the haze. Lycos knelt before me, defenseless, waiting for a blow that would never leave me whole again. I staggered backward, chest heaving, hands shaking uncontrollably. The nails punished me, spikes of agony stabbing through my skull for refusing the kill. I nearly collapsed under the weight of it. The overseer slammed the cage door open, fury burning in his visor glare. End of trial. Remove them. Lycos collapsed into the arms of two attendants. Kalis sank to the floor, shaking with relief. The overseer approached me last, gaze unreadable. "You held the line," he said. "Barely." I couldn't speak. The nails seethed, furious. And in that boiling silence, I realized something I had not known before. The nails did not fail to claim me. They were simply waiting for the right moment to finish the job. They didn't give us time to recover. World Eaters never did. The cage trials ended, but the echoes of violence clung to us like dried blood on our tongues. Lycos was carried away to the apothecarian, half conscious, jaw fractured, ribs cracked. Kalis tried to follow him, but the overseer seized the boy by the collar and flung him back into formation. His cry of protest tore at something inside me the nails hadn't yet killed. I stood where they placed me, shoulder to shoulder with other aspirants whose eyes twitched with raw aggression. Every heartbeat in the barracks hammered through my skull like drumbeats from some distant battlefield I hadn't reached yet. The nails throbbed with each one, tuning themselves tighter, pushing deeper, whispering that I should finish what I started in the cage. But Kalis kept looking at me, those eyes wide, terrified, pleading not for his own life, but for mine. And every time he looked, the nails recoiled, irritated by the memory of the man I used to be. The centurion strode into the hall, armored boots clanging, the sound sending sparks of pain through my skull. His presence bent the room to silence. "Today," he announced, "you will shed the last fragments of who you were." The nails hummed in anticipation. Your old loyalties, your weaknesses, your fears, all must die. And so, he nodded to the side door. It opened with a hiss. Lycos limped into the room, barely standing, held upright by two thralls. Fresh sutures ran across his scalp, bright, raw, heaving with every breath. The nails reacted instantly. They recognized the wounds. They recognized the pain. They recognized another, implanted mind, unsteady, vulnerable, bleeding feeling into the room like fuel, and they hungered. Lycos raised his head. When his eyes found mine, he managed a faint, broken smile. Still, holding the line, I swallowed hard. The nails pulsed sharp, punishing, demanding movement. The centurion lifted a shock maul. Lycos flinched. "This one survived his implantation," he said, "but barely. His injuries are inconvenient." The nails purred at that word, inconvenient, a weakness to be culled. The centurion pointed at me. "Delvarus, step forward." The room tightened around me, the nails squeezing like a fist around the back of my skull. Kalis grabbed my wrist. "Don't," he whispered. "Del, please, don't go." The nails hated the touch. They shoved a spike of pain through my mind so vicious I staggered. Kalis recoiled, eyes wide with shock. The centurion barked, "Forward." My body moved, not because I wanted to, but because the nails pushed me, step by grinding step. I stood before Lycos. He looked up at me, blood dried on his jaw, lips trembling. If this is what they want, then let me stand on my own feet for it." He shoved away the thralls and stood, wavering but upright. The nails roared at the sight of resistance. They wanted me to crush it. The centurion's voice cut through the haze. "Your trial is simple. Kill him, or prove you can control the urge." Kalis shouted, "No." He was restrained instantly by two legionaries, dragged backward, screaming my name. The nails surged again, drowning everything in red. Lycos stepped closer. Close enough that I could see the fear trembling behind his eyes. Close enough that I could see the trust still buried there too. "If you lose yourself," he whispered, "I'll forgive you." The nails didn't forgive, they demanded, they devoured. They punished hesitation with agony so sharp it tore a cry from my throat. I lifted my hand, not to strike, to hold my skull together. The nails screamed, Lycos braced, Kalis sobbed. The overseer watched, waiting for the monster he believed I would become. My vision blurred into red streaks. Lycos stepped back at the last moment, not to defend himself, but to spare me the guilt. And in that sliver of mercy, something inside me cracked. Not my discipline, not my strength, my heart. I roared not in rage, but in refusal. The sound shook the barracks, raw and ragged, torn from a soul being bent too far by the nails. Lycos' eyes widened, hope flickered. Kalis froze mid-scream. The centurion leaned forward, intrigued. I forced my hands down, forced my breath steady, forced the nails back with every drop of strength remaining. Lycos whispered, "Delvarus, you're still in there." But the nails weren't beaten. They were waiting, coiling, tightening, readying themselves for the moment I slipped. And when that moment came, I knew it wouldn't be Lycos who paid the price. It would be everyone. They didn't speak to us after the trial. There were no commendations, no rebukes, only the grinding silence of the barracks as the aspirants filed back to their cots with the defeated slump of men forced to watch their own humanity peel away. Lycos was taken again to the Medicae wing, though this time he walked without help, refusing the thrall's arms even as blood dripped sluggishly from his reopened sutures. He glanced back once, meeting my eyes with a hollow kind of pride, as though surviving me had somehow strengthened him. Kalis remained near the back of the barracks, trembling beside a storage crate, arms wrapped around himself. He refused to look at me, as if afraid the nails would take his glance as invitation. His breath came in short bursts, chest rising too fast, as though his lungs were trying to outrun the memory of watching me almost kill a man he considered family. I wanted to go to him. I wanted to tell him I had fought the nails, that I had chosen mercy, that I still carried the man he knew somewhere beneath the bloodthirst. But the nails felt the hesitation and punished it. A bolt of electric agony tore through my skull so violently I staggered sideways, catching myself on a bunk frame. The sound of metal on metal echoed like a challenge, like a call to violence. The nails rose eagerly, pressing against my thoughts until I tasted iron on my tongue. A few aspirants flinched at my stumble. One reached instinctively for his combat blade. The nails latched onto that flicker of tension, twisting it into something feral. The overseer entered then, as if summoned by the chaos building inside my skull. "Good," he said, voice calm, hands clasped behind his back. "You feel them more strongly now." I straightened, though the motion sent a fresh wave of pressure rolling behind my eyes. "There. Louder. They will be. The nails must strip away the weak instincts, the ones that hold you back from becoming a true son of Angron." Kalis shuddered at the name, the sound of it echoing strange in his throat. The overseer turned his head slightly, noticing the boy's tremor. "You," he commanded. "Stand." Kalis obeyed, though his legs wobbled. I felt the nails react to his fear rising, sharpening, urging me to step toward him. The overseer's helmet, lenses narrowed on me. "Does his fear provoke you, Delvarus?" I swallowed. The nails pulsed. "Yes." The word escaped before I could stop it. "But do you choose to act?" My hands trembled. The nails screamed in fury at my hesitation. "No," I forced out. "Not yet." The overseer stepped closer, his presence suffocating. "You cling to the man you were. That man is dead. Accept the new form the nails are crafting. That form is a monster," I whispered. "The 60 Legion does not fear monsters," he replied. "It requires them." He turned and gestured for me to follow. "Delvarus, walk with me." The nails surged again, obedience coming faster than thought. I fell into step behind him, Kaelus's soft gasp echoing behind me as though he watched me being led to execution. In a sense, I was. We entered a long, narrow corridor lined with relics, broken helms, scarred chain blades, iron, fragments of armor stained with dried blood. The overseer paused before a massive slab of ceramite carved with symbols of the butcher's nails. Beneath it lay a plaque inscribed with a simple phrase, Pain is the language of transformation. The overseer rested a gauntlet against the slab. You must understand something, Delvarus. The nails do not just amplify rage, they create a void, a hunger, and hunger must be fed. I closed my eyes. The nails pulsed violently behind my eyelids, pressing for violence, for release, for anything to shatter the tension building inside me. What happens if I refuse to feed them? I asked. The overseer studied me for a long moment. Then, you die. Either from neural collapse, or by the hand of a brother who can no longer recognize hesitation as anything but weakness. A cold shiver ran through my bones. And Kalis? What happens to him? The overseer turned his visor toward me. He is a liability, weak, afraid. Those who cannot endure the nails have no place among us. The nails surged hard. They liked that answer. I clenched my fists until the implants screamed. He's not weak, he is, the overseer replied. And if he remains near you, you will eventually kill him, not because you choose to, but because the nails will. Your only hope is to distance yourself. The nails roared at the thought, rejecting it, punishing it, demanding I stay near the fear they hungered for. I pressed a hand against the wall, head dropping forward as pain engulfed me. The overseer watched, satisfied. This is the price of surviving the transformation, he said quietly. The ones you care for will either fear you or feed you. I breathed through the agony, shaking. Not because I feared the nails, but because I realized the overseer was right. The nails weren't just changing me. They were isolating me one bond at a time. They brought us into the lower training pits at dusk, when Bod's rust-red sky bled through the open vents like a wound that refused to close. The air was thick with metal dust and the sickly sweetness of burnt oil, each breath scraping my throat as if the world itself wanted to tear its way into my lungs. The nails throbbed, with every inhalation sharp, eager, whispering their endless demands. Tonight was no trial. Tonight was a culling. The overseer stood on a raised platform above the pits, flanked by chain-axe-wielding legionaries whose expressions were carved from stone. The clang of distant machinery echoed down the walls like a death chant. Kalis stood among the unblooded aspirants, shaking so violently the nails inside me reacted as though sensing prey struggling in a snare. I pressed my fist to my skull, trying to steady the building storm. Phase 4, the overseer called, his voice reverberating through the chamber. Final filter before induction. Lycos limped into the pit beside me, his face pale, his body trembling from the wounds he'd tried so hard to hide. Yet when he met my eyes, he nodded one small, stubborn act of defiance against the nails. The overseer continued, "Among you are those who will join us." His visor turned toward Lycos. "And those who have already failed." My heart clenched. The nails clenched harder. A signal rune flashed red. The pit gates opened. 3 feral gladiators, prisoners or beasts, it didn't matter, were released into the arena, starved and maddened, bodies crisscrossed with scars that spoke of 1,000 dying struggles. The nails surged instantly, drowning out logic, drowning out fear, drowning out everything. "Survive until the horn sounds," the overseer commanded. "If you fall, you are unworthy." Lycos stepped forward before I could react, positioning himself at my flank like he'd done 100 times in training. "Delvarus, we stand together. You hear me?" But the nails didn't want together. They wanted frenzy. They wanted the violence that erased thought. The first gladiator lunged at me, a blur of bone and rusted blades. I moved before I commanded myself to. The nails seized my muscles, twisting my dodge into a brutal counter-strike. My fist collided with the creature's jaw, shattering bone, spraying blood across the sand. The nails roared in triumph, urging me to finish it, to tear it open, to feel its death pulse through my fingers. Lycos slammed into me, shoulder first, snapping me out of the frenzy. "Don't let them take you." The nails answered by punishing my restraint, searing pain ripping through my skull. I screamed, despite myself. The gladiator recovered and rushed again, but Lycos intercepted it, taking the hit to keep it away from me. They crashed into the ground in a tangle of limbs and blood. Lycos roared as he brought his knee down, crushing the beast's windpipe. Del, he gasped. Stay with me. I tried. Emperor witness. I tried. But a second gladiator leapt at Kaelus. His scream pierced me. The nails loved it. The implants detonated behind my eyes in a pulse of pure hunger. I spun toward the sound, barreling across the pit. Lycos tried to grab my arm, but the nails were too strong. The momentum tore me free from his grasp. Kaelus stumbled backward, cornered, pupils blown wide with terror. Delvarus don't. I wasn't aiming for him. I struck the gladiator so hard its spine cracked. It collapsed in a spray of blood, twitching. Kaelus scrambled away, sobbing, terrified of the thing standing over the corpse. Terrified of me. The nails surged. His fear tasted like fuel. Del? He whispered. That single word, fragile, trusting, breaking, cut through the fire. I staggered backward, breath ragged, fists trembling. The nails lashed me with agony, furious at my refusal to turn the moment into slaughter. Lycos reached my side again, gripping my armor, forcing my gaze up. You're winning, he whispered. Do you hear me? You're winning. But the overseer's voice cut him off. Enough. The horn sounded. The trial ended. The surviving gladiator fled into its cage as thralls dragged the bodies away. Kaelus collapsed to the sand, shaking. Lycos leaned on me, bloody but alive. The overseer descended from the platform, studying us like an artisan examining half-finished statues. Those who stand now, he said, will become true sons of Angron. His visor turned to Lycos, and those who fall will feed the soil. Lycos inhaled sharply. He knew, I knew. The overseer raised his hand and pointed to him. Lycos, step forward. My breath stopped. The nails surged. The world tilted. Because I realized the next life the nails demanded was his. Lycos stepped forward exactly as he had during every drill, every formation, every battle simulation. We'd survived together, back straight, chin raised, hiding the tremor in his legs through sheer force of will. The overseer watched him descend the last few steps into the center of the pit, hands clasped behind his back, posture calm in the way only a butcher comfortable with his work could be. The nails pulsed in my skull, sharp and eager, as though sensing the shape of what was about to be carved from my life. Kaelus crawled across the sand toward the cage bars, gripping them so tightly his knuckles went white. No, no, please. He passed. He survived. Don't take him. His voice cracked, thin as cracked glass on metal. The nails reacted violently, twisting the fear into hunger, urging me to turn toward him, to take the sound from the air. I forced myself still, but the nails punished the effort with a spike of pain that dropped me to one knee. Lycos looked at me, really looked, and for a moment the pits, the overseers, the nails, all of it fell away. There was recognition in his eyes, not of the creature fighting inside me, but of the brother I had been before the metal entered my skull. He nodded once, a quiet gesture that meant far more than words. It's all right, he whispered. You lived. That's enough. The overseer lifted a hand. A tech thrall approached, offering him a data slate. He scanned it briefly. Then he spoke with infuriating calm. Lycos of Cohort Red 7. Neural instability, excessive hesitation, emotional tethering. He turned the visor toward me. Liabilities, all of them. The nails surged vindication, approval, hunger. My breath caught as the overseer raised his arm, signaling the final command. Delvarus. Execute him. Kaelus screamed. Lycos closed his eyes. The nails roared in triumph. I stood frozen between the two worlds, tearing me apart. Lycos didn't plead, didn't beg, didn't fight. He simply looked at me and smiled, a small, broken thing, and whispered, "Whatever happens, Kaelus needs you more." The nails latched onto that word need and twisted it, warping it into justification, into fuel, into frenzy. My vision blurred, red fog rolling down the edges of my sight. The overseer's voice drifted through the haze. Do it. Claim your future. I stepped forward. 1 step. 2. Lycos watched my approach with steady eyes, even as his legs shook. He knew what was coming. He accepted it. He accepted me. That was the torment. That was the cruelty. The nails demanded violence, and the one person who could anchor me stared at me without fear. I raised my hand. The nails shrieked, exultant. Lycos inhaled calm, resigned. Kayla sobbed behind the bars, breaking against the sight. "Del," Lycos whispered. The nails struck. My body moved. Fast. Final. And when the moment passed, Lycos fell to the sand at my feet, a red bloom spreading beneath him like a dying sunrise. The nails gave me a rush of bliss silence, sweet and terrible as my friend bled out under my shadow. That silence was worse than any scream, because it meant the nails were pleased. It meant they had won. Kaelus's howl shredded through the pit, a raw sound that carved straight through my chest. He threw himself against the bars until his skin split, until his voice broke, until he collapsed in a heap of grief and terror. I stood there, fists trembling, breath ragged, the nails humming behind my skull like a purring beast. The overseer approached, satisfied. "You chose strength," he said, but that was the lie. The truth was simpler, darker, unbearably sharp. I didn't choose anything. The nails chose for me, and Lycos paid the price. I don't remember leaving the pit. I don't remember washing Lycos's blood from my gauntlets, or stripping off my armor, or walking the long corridor back to the barracks. The nails had wrapped themselves around the memory like a curtain, smothering every image, muting every sound. All that remained was an aftertaste, copper, smoke, and the lingering hum of satisfaction still thrumming through my skull like a heartbeat, could no longer silence. When awareness returned, I was sitting on my bunk, hands hanging between my knees, eyes fixed on nothing. The barracks around me was distant, muffled, as though I were watching it through a sheet of cracked ice. The nails dulled everything except the moments they wanted me to feel, and they wanted me to feel nothing of Lycos, nothing but the surge of power that came with ending him. Kaelus was curled in his corner, wrapped in his arms, shaking so hard the bolts on the storage crate rattled. Every breath he took was a jagged sob that scraped the inside of my skull, the sound amplified by the nails until it became unbearable, too sharp, too fragile, too human. I stood, not because I meant to, but because the nails wanted me closer. They wanted that fear. They wanted me to drink it in and grow stronger from it. Kaelus saw me approach and pressed himself against the wall, eyes wide, lips trembling. "Delvarus, please, stay away." The nails flared eager, delighted. His words tasted like prey. His fear tasted like relief. I clenched my teeth so hard, the implants pulsed in protest. My boots scraped the floor as I stopped halfway between us, far enough that I couldn't reach him, close enough that I could still hear the frantic pounding of his heart. "Kaelos," I managed, my voice breaking like something brittle. I didn't want. You killed him." His voice cracked. "You killed Lycos. You killed." The nails struck, punishing the guilt, punishing the grief, punishing the very shape of regret forming in my thoughts. I staggered, gripping the bunk frame until the metal bent under my fingers. "He didn't fight back," Kaelus cried. "He trusted you, he saved you, and you stop." The word tore from my throat, raw and desperate, the nails responding with a furious surge that forced me upright. I wasn't shouting at him. I was shouting at them, at the metal, at the rage, at the pit, inside me, that had devoured my brother. Kaelus flinched, tears spilling down his cheeks, breath hitching violently. "Delvarus, what's happening to you?" The nails hated the question. They clawed at me from the inside, shredding thought into violent static. The world blurred, shapes twisted. Kaelus's silhouette became a threat. His fear became fuel. His trembling became an invitation. I pressed my forehead against the cold metal pillar beside me, breathing through my teeth, fighting the pulse of hunger igniting in my veins. "Stay back," I whispered. "Please, Kaelus, stay back." He didn't move, not out of bravery, out of heartbreak. "You're still my brother," he whispered. "I know you're still in there. Fight them." The nails responded with a shriek of agony that drove me to my knees. I clawed at my own scalp, ripping open half-healed sutures, blood running warm down my temples. Anything to drown out the implant's demands. Footsteps entered the barracks, heavy, deliberate. The overseer. He stood over me, studying the scene with the dispassionate gaze of a man observing an experiment nearing completion. "Good," he said softly. "He provokes you. That fear strengthens your bond to the nails." Kalis shook his head violently. "You're killing him. You're killing him." The overseer turned his visor toward him. "No, I am forging him." He seized Kalis by the arm, dragging him to his feet. The boy struggled, screaming my name, but the overseer didn't flinch. "You are weak," he said, "and the weak do not survive among the Telv Legion." "No," Kalis cried. "Delvarus, help me." The nails surged so violently I nearly blacked out. They wanted me to obey the overseer. They wanted me to accept the culling. They wanted Kalis's terror to be the next spark that shaped me. I staggered upright, wiping blood from my face. The overseer watched, waiting. "Delvarus," he said, "prove your loyalty. Finish what the nails have begun." Kalis stared at me, chest heaving, tears streaking down his face. "Don't," he whispered. "Please, don't take him from me too." Lycos. The pit. The nails. Silence. Kalis's hand reaching through the bars. The sound of his voice breaking. I closed my eyes. This was the moment the nails had been waiting for. The moment they would finally take everything. Kalis's voice trembled through the barracks like a wounded animal's last cry, each syllable scraping raw across the surface of my thoughts. The nails reacted instantly, thrashing, striking, biting down on every fragment of restraint left inside me. My vision pulsed with red haze. My breath came in violent shudders, and every instinct twisted into something sharp, primal, hungry. The overseer held Kalis tightly by the arm, pushing him forward as though offering prey to a starving beast. "Take him," the overseer commanded. "Let the nails complete your transformation." Kalis shook his head, tears streaking his face, voice cracked to a whisper. "Delvarus, please, you don't have to do this." The nails disagreed. They surged so violently I stumbled forward, fingers twitching, jaw clenched hard enough to crack teeth. The world narrowed to sound and heat, and the pounding of his terrified heartbeat, each trembling beat a lure the nails seized upon, twisting the scent of fear into temptation. I could feel them burrowing deeper, threading themselves through memory until Lycos's broken body flashed again in my sight. The nails offered the same reward: silence if I killed Kalis. I dropped to one knee. Not out of surrender, out of refusal. The overseer tilted his head. "Still resisting? Even now?" Pathetic. He shoved Kalis closer. The boy stumbled, catching himself on a bunk frame, breath hitching in sobs. He tried to stand tall, tried to summon courage I knew he did not feel, but his fear radiated through the room, like a beacon. The nails coiled tighter. My muscles twitched, my heartbeat accelerating toward frenzy. "Delvarus," Kalis whispered, voice breaking. I know you're in there. I know you can still hear me." The nails struck, punishing the hope in his voice, punishing the weakness it pulled from my memories, punishing me for allowing the sound to touch anything human still clinging inside my skull. I slammed my fist into the floor, cracking the metal plating, forcing my lungs to draw ragged breaths. "I won't hurt him." The words fell from my lips like shards of broken steel. The overseer stepped back, arms folded. "Then watch him die another way." He flicked a command rune. 2 thralls stepped forward with shock axes raised. "No," Kalis cried, backing into the wall. "Delvarus, don't let them, don't let them." The nails detonated in my skull, not in pain, in rage. Pure, molten, unrestrained. Before the overseer could blink, I surged forward. My hand closed around the first thrall's wrist, crushing bone. The shock axe fell. I slammed the second thrall into the wall so hard the metal buckled. The nails shrieked triumph and bloodlust, but for the first time, I turned their hunger outward, away from Kalis, away from the brother they wanted me to kill. The overseer watched, expression unreadable behind his visor. "You defy a direct order." "No," I growled, chest heaving. "I defy you." He drew his chain blade with a smooth motion, the weapon sputtering to life with a sickening growl. Kalis scrambled behind me, clutching the back of my armor with desperate fingers. The nails loved his fear, but they didn't control what I did with it, not now, not in this final moment. The overseer attacked, his blade slashed. The nails moved my body before thought could form, catching his arm, twisting, driving a knee into his chest. Metal cracked. Sparks flew. His chain blade clattered across the barracks floor. I pinned him against the wall, breath steaming in ragged bursts. "You wanted a monster," I whispered. "You made one." His visor glinted. "Then act like it. Kill the boy." The nails roared. They wanted blood. They wanted obedience. They wanted to finish devouring everything I loved. But there was one thing stronger than the hunger, the memory of Kalis screaming my name in the cage, the sound that had saved me once, the last voice tethering me to who I had been. I released the overseer, turned, lifted Kalis from the floor by the collar of his torn tunic. His breath caught, expecting the end. Instead, I pressed my forehead gently to his. "It's my turn to save you," I whispered. Then I dragged him out of the barracks, through the smoke-filled corridors, past the alarms sounding our escape, past the legionaries shouting orders. The nails punished me with every step, but they could not stop me. Not now. We fled into the night of Bot. That was the last moment I remember before everything went black. When I woke again, Kalis was gone, taken, vanished, and the nails had carved away the last of my hope. I searched for him for years, never found him, never forgave myself. And now, as I record these final words with trembling hands, I understand the truth the nails never wanted me to see. I was not forged into a monster to win battles. I was forged to outlive the ones I failed to save. I carry the silence of those I loved, and it weighs more than all my wars.